So it's now 6:28. So we're going to start in 2 minutes.
Sounds good.
And Jane, we have our council member, Keith Powers, here.
Oh, great. I'm sure he's here to speak on East 62nd Street.
I am here to speak on East 62nd Street. Yep.
Well, thank you, Keith. We were thinking of reversing the agenda. I don't know what your time frame is and taking East 65th Street first because it'll be shorter.
I am not going to be able to stay too long if there's an
Well,
opportunity.
maybe what we'll do is I'll let you speak initially, and then we're going to go to 201 East 65th. How is that?
That'd be fantastic. I appreciate that.
Okay, very good. I've got 6:29, almost time to start. Saida, are you ready to speak?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, why don't you give the introductory comments and then we'll start. And then
Okay.
Keith will speak. But I'll give a little introduction.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. A few notes for you, particularly if this is your first meeting with us. You'll notice that you are muted and unable to mute yourself. After presentations, the co-chairs may call on members of the public who wish to speak. You can ask to be recognized by raising your virtual hand, and you can do that by going to the reactions button at the bottom of your screen and selecting raise hand. It's important not to raise your physical hands or wave at the screen because we may not be able to see you among the participants. If you are on the phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute. And once you're recognized by the co-chair, I will unmute you. You may be prompted to confirm unmuting on your device. If you're using an older version of Zoom, you can access the raise hand feature by clicking the participants button on the menu at the bottom of your screen and selecting raise hand. Also, please note that the chat function is available for technical support only, not to ask questions of the co-chairs. You can send me a chat if you're having any trouble, and I can walk you through any issues you may be having. That's it, Jane.
Thank you, Saida. Good evening. This is the April meeting of the Landmarks Committee of Community Board 8. We are reversing the agenda and we're going to hear 201 East 65th Street first. We have 2 applications, and then we'll hear 210 East 62nd Street. We're very honored to have our city councilman here with us tonight. It's just rare that we see one of our politicians anxious to support or not support one of our applications. So we're going to go right to Keith Powers because his time is so valuable and we thank him for coming. It really is an honor. So go ahead, Keith.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and it's nice to see everyone virtually. And thanks to Jane and everyone here for all your work here on behalf of our community. I wanted to stop in before I run to my next event to talk about the Treadwell Farms application here today at 210 East 62nd Street. I'm going to be submitting formal testimony to the board and of course at Landmarks as well. But I wanted to state that I think folks know this, and you'll hear from folks later today, but I've heard from many concerned neighbors about the applicant's non-compliant development that's been there over the late years and the negative impacts it's had on the block and the surrounding neighbors. I have shared my concerns and do share my concerns and really asked that CB8 and the LPC take actions to help address those non-compliant conditions with this property owner. As many people know, in 2016, CB8 heard the initial application regarding the new owner's plans for redevelopment of the property in this historic district, and it was approved, but there were raised reservations. And since then, we've seen that the stuff that was actually built there was non-compliant, has caused a lot of concerns for the neighbors there. I have heard from neighbors on both sides that have experienced water damage on the roof and basement flooding. Folks who've had a beam go through their fireplace. There have been issues with trespassing and garbage and rats and mosquitoes, unsafe sidewalks and unsecure scaffolding, lack of snow removal, and others. And there's been a concern about preservation and deterioration of a historic building here during all of this. So we are very happy that the LPC has granted us a public hearing instead of a public meeting to address these issues. But I also wanted to just indicate my support for the neighbors who are adjacent to this property, who we are all happy to see it become compliant again. But also, I think, have really asked for there to be an investigation of the non-compliance and other conditions there, and want to see LPC take, stronger actions against folks who, and especially this property, who have been non-compliant in the past. So while I am happy that we're getting some of these issues resolved and seeing part of compliance, I did want to restate my concerns that have been the neighbors' concerns there, is that this property has been non-compliant in the past, and that it has led to other conditions that have been harmful, and this whole property here has been negligent. So I just ask you to watch it with a careful eye here as you're going through this application today. And of course, for all the folks from Treadwell Farms, I hope we can resolve their situations that they've been dealing with over the last few years. And if anybody knows this block, it's a really nice block with some beautiful houses there and a really good block association that's been tending to those issues. So I really want to thank Julianne and the whole folks from Treadwell Farms there as well. And we'll be submitting for more formal testimony with all of this and at the LPC, but I want to just kind of come in and say a few words about what's been happening there and hope that we can resolve the issues that have been there for a couple of years now.
Thank you so much. Is that that's
me. I'm done. Yeah.
Okay, very good. I'm really grateful to you for coming. It means a lot to all of us.
Thank you, guys. Thanks everybody for being here tonight.
We're going to move to the second item on the agenda, which is 201 East 65th Street. This is the Manhattan House. It's an individual landmark. We've heard from the applicant twice before and have turned down his application to remove the existing awning, which was installed without permits, and replace it with a new awning. So with that, is the applicant here?
He is here. Christian, confirm unmuting. Okay, and I also see your support person here, so I'm going to ask that you confirm unmuting as well. Wajiha.
Thank you, Saida. I'm assuming we'll do a screen share for the
Yes, we are doing a screen share if they would just confirm unmuting. Christian, could you just raise your virtual hand? I see you here, but I don't see you confirming unmuting. Okay.
Hi, I'm confirming Kushner.
Okay. And is Christian here as well? Are you going to be? Okay.
Hi. So yes, Christian should be the one presenting today.
Okay, Christian, could you raise your virtual hand, because I'm not getting a response from where you're listed here. Okay.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, good.
Can
Is this
can you hear
Christian?
me? Sorry,
yes, we
yeah,
can hear you.
I'm running.
Okay.
Yes, I have two computers, so it's a little, I just have to update my name real quick, sorry.
Okay, no problem, I got it.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you, Saida.
Okay, and you should have the capability to share your screen.
Yes, I do. Sorry, just give me a minute. Are you able to see my name?
Yes, we
Yes,
are.
we can see your name.
Okay. Hi, how are you? Community board and guests. My name is Christian Moran, and I'm going to be representing and presenting our client, and also 201 East 65th Street. Should I start presenting or
Yes,
Yes, you can share your screen and go ahead with your presentation.
okay, sounds good. Let me just share the screen. All right. Is everyone able to see?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, we are back. So our main goal is to satisfy the existing condition. But yet again, we are here again because we had a condition that was not approved, or it was against the historical design of the Skidmore and Orange location. And as we proceed with these new proposals / design, our goal is to protect the community from weathering, snow, etc. And this is in mind for the client's patients, but also the community surrounding the area. We are located at the southwest corner here on 65th Street. And just note that we do have ADA access on the existing residential lobby on 66th Street, which is one form of of another entrance that people may enter through with disabilities. Now, here is our previous condition. So this is one crucial issue that we had, or that the client had, was the unsafetyness of this staircase heading towards the medical office at the subcellar. And the client wanted to protect not only their workers, but also their patients and the community. So here, this is the medical office in approximately 2019, which is when they opened up. And then they came up to these issues of the staircase here and it being unweather protected, which therefore we are proposing and trying to legalize a new design awning / canopy. And oh no, sorry, I'm having some computer issues.
Is it stuck? Do you need some support?
Yes, just give me a minute. My computer just shut off. Sorry. All right, I am still here. I'm just trying to reset my computer. My apologies.
Saida,
Yes, I'm here, Jane.
do you have a copy? You have a copy of the presentation, don't you?
I do have a copy. Christian, I can go ahead and share it while you try to reboot your computer. I don't know if you'll be able to do both, but we're here on slide 2. Can you see it?
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Christian, can you see it?
Yes, I can.
Well,
Okay.
maybe we'll let
So-
Saida run through the slides and you can comment on each one and tell her when to move forward.
All right. So I'm actually getting my laptop open. Hopefully that's better.
Jane, should we just insist on Saida running the slides?
Yes, I think
Okay.
we're going to have to, Christian. It's just taking too long and we've got quite another application coming up.
Yes. So yes, I can use that. Correct.
Okay, so Saida, you're on slide number 2. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So do you want to continue, Christian, with your narrative?
Yes, I can. All right. So yes, as I left off, this is one condition that we try to not only fix but also work with the new design that we are proposing. And to further that proposed idea, we took the existing historical storefront that is located on the top right picture. So we use this storefront as inspiration by Skidmore and Owens to create this new proposed awning. And you can go to the next slide.
I guess the next,
All
Yeah,
right,
this is
there
the
we
next
go.
one. Mhm.
okay, thank you.
So now comparing our previous condition and our new proposed condition, we decided to use the anodized aluminum material and put it in its horizontal side to create this awning, this new awning. And by so, we are also keeping the design very minimal. So that way, the design of the existing storefront across was seamlessly match the new design of the canopy. So that way there isn't much eyesoring or distraction, let's say, and it's more harmonious to not only the site, but also in respect to the building's design itself. And you can see this is the entrance there. And as we enter through the archway, we are also proposing our office directory combined with ADA access signage. So that way, those who need either ramp accessibility or elevator accessibility will be able to do so at the 66 entrance on the residential side. Next slide, please. All right, and to further go over the design, we are including a little bit of the signage from the client itself and the name of the doctor's office. And it's going to be as well minimal to keep everything coexistent. It's going to be a 4-inch height signage by 6 feet long, spelling out the name of the office. And in addition, in safety of the client's workers, but also the community, we are proposing downlighting at the curvature of the awning here. So the top of the awning, it's going to be a frosted glass. So that way we keep it a little bit more transparent, but then also alleviate all that rainage that's dropping down onto the side into the green area of the location. With oh my god, sorry. I can't see the presentation anymore for some reason.
You can't see the slides?
Yes, I lost the slides. Okay,
Well,
there we go. It's back.
okay.
My apologies. All right, so where I left off of, yes. So including indirect lighting, so that way we can illuminate not only the staircase, but also a bit of the top. So if you were to see the bottom right image there, which is a section cut through the awning itself, we are providing light on both ends. Yes, we are providing light on both ends, and we're looking at the detail at the two corners of the awning there on the bottom right. So by providing this lightage, we are able to not only protect the workers, but also the community itself. Next slide. And here you can see more of that lightage, which is in red. We are also going to provide lightage by the hand railing. So that way handrails are visible to the community and patients. And if you wanted to see the top view of the awning, it is going to be a frosted plexiglass with a bit of a curve. So that way we can protect the community, but also the workers. And as you can see at the entrance, we're also providing the signage of ADA accessibility. Next slide. And here are some examples of minimalist design. So here having these storefronts, keeping the lettering very similar, we took that idea into our own and decided to create a minimalist signage. So that way it's not affecting the design of the area, but also keeping everything more unison and simple. Thank you.
So that's your presentation, Christian?
Yes.
Thank you. I think we're gonna, is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak to the application? Judy.
Yes, we have a raised hand from Judy. Confirm unmuting.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm afraid that I didn't quite understand the drawing. Is that canopy coming right up to the existing building, or is it only covering part of the staircase?
So sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. So the awning is covering the whole area of the staircase plus landing, and also entrance of the office entrance at the bottom. So that way it's all protected surrounding this area.
I take it you do not have any other shot of the awning other than that one from the street? You don't have a picture showing it facing the building?
Saida, can you do you mind zooming in? I have I have about 3 renderings there.
Okay, which slide?
I believe it's slide 4, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And also my apologies for having technical difficulties here. My
Okay.
equipment has failed on me.
Do you see what you're looking for?
Yes, can you go to slide 3 actually?
Okay.
And then do you mind zooming in on the new proposed conditions?
Okay.
So I guess my question is, does that canopy come right up to the glass roof of the building?
It does not. So there is some distance in between.
How much would that be?
It's about a foot.
Okay, so if it's raining out, somebody is going to get wet going from there into the building that way.
Oh, you're referring to at the entrance where we have that angle skylight?
Judy,
Yes. I have to tell you, I'm confused. I'm a little confused by this drawing.
Okay, so Saida, I have my computer back up now. Let me try to reconnect. So that way I can zoom in on those and explain.
Judy, you're concerned that the canopy isn't wide enough?
Long enough, rather than not the width so much as the length. Does it go all the way up to the building? The prior canopy, if you went down the stairs, you had coverage all the way to the door to the doctor's office.
I thought he said that it did go all the way to the doctor's office, but
Right, we do have coverage at the edge at the doctor's office, so it does overhang. I thought you were referring to the other side, but yes, to answer your question, it does overhang over the angled skylight
Okay,
to further protect people.
okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yep.
anyone else from the public that you see, Saida?
I don't see any other raised hands, no.
Okay, I think we can go to the board and we'll start alphabetically with Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, confirm unmuting.
Yes, I think that this is an improvement, but that's not exactly a compliment. And I think we're going to probably have to provide something for these people. And perhaps this is the best they can do. I do think it's improved, but I think it's too bad that it has to be this way, that this entrance is the one that we have to use. But I think I'll probably tolerate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle?
Yes, thank you very much. I think this is a definite improvement from what was, no question about it. Unfortunately, your presentation in terms of the imagery that you're providing is sadly lacking. However, let me try to surmise and work off what we have. So if you're looking at your full horizontal picture down at the bottom of this slide, on the inner part of the archway where it says 201, on the inner part of the leg on the left side, correct, that's where you have your directory and your indication that there's handicapped accessibility on the other street. Is that correct? So you have added the handicap accessibility, which was not there last time. And so that's very good. And I'm assuming that's in the same lettering in the small unobtrusive lettering that you had suggested at the last presentation. Is that correct? No changes there?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Can you go back to that same slide again, please? Yeah. So now the other awning, which we disapproved twice, the blue one, if my recollection is correct, however, as I say, this is a big improvement, but I'm more concerned with how it's installed and its and the size of it and its measurements. So my recollection is that the blue awning went down the stairs with in other words, this awning is straight across, so it covers the stairs, but it's a much bigger distance between the bottom of this awning. You don't have a picture of it. That's why I'm saying it's unfortunate. So just leave it on that horizontal. Is much higher than the floor of where the entrance is, the floor at the bottom of the stairs. My question is, if my recollection is correct, and you did it incrementally in the last presentation, you had a certain height for coverage at the top, and as the coverage went down the stairs, it declined with the stairs declining. Am I making myself clear? This is just straight across, and as such, it looks very big and very bulky, and it's hard to tell where those posts, the support posts, where they are actually landing, and how high are they, and how long is the awning, and how wide is the awning. So if you want to start with the measurements and then maybe address the gradual declining or descending is the word I'm looking for. My recollection is the other awning descended down the stairs, whereas this one doesn't. So can you address the dimensions plus the descending aspect of this?
No. Sorry, I just lost connection again. My apologies.
Okay, I can pull it up for you if you tell me which.
Jihad, do you mind presenting? Sorry, I have
It's very hard for Saida to present, Christian. I think that
he has an assistant here, Jane. I'm gonna
Yes.
see if she can present.
okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, Saida. I'm gonna have to ask you to pull up the slide, if that would be all right.
Okay. And then
whichever slide you find that
Okay.
can give us the dimensions that I asked for. I'm not quite sure. I think it's probably, yeah, that's 4.
Right, the
It's 4.
following.
Okay. So how big is the awning? It's hard to see, so if you can call out the numbers as you see them, it would be great.
Okay, for the awning, it says 1.5. Okay, no, that's not right.
Yeah,
I think it's 25.
The awning, sorry. So the awning length is 25.8, I believe. And that's the length. So that's the length, and it does overhang a little bit towards the angle skylight that's existing, which is
Right.
the entrance of the doctor's office. And the width of the awning is about 8 feet. Yes, 8 feet.
So let me just stop you there. The 8 feet, does that put it immediately over the stairwell? And if not, how far does it extend past the stairwell in width on either side?
So the width would match the width of the stairwell itself.
So if it's 8 feet, the stairwell is 8 feet.
Correct.
Okay. And how long are the posts, your support beams?
So our posts do decline as the staircase inclines and declines. So we try to match that as well. But the highest peak, which is at the entrance there, would be which is the 5 feet at the top that we see there, plus an additional 7 feet.
And what's the 7 feet about?
That's just the height at the bottom of the entrance to the
When
top
you
of
say
where
entrance, are you talking about the doorway to the office? That's what I term as the entrance. Or are you
Right.
talking about parts of the stairwell?
So what I refer to is the bottom of the cellar to the top of the awning, to make it more simpler. It's about 13, 14 feet.
Okay, that does make it easier.
Mhm.
So if you, so the posts are descending, but the awning is not. Let me make this, let me just say my comments, and then I guess you figure it out. Unfortunately, we don't have a slide that illustrates. Well, actually, this does illustrate it. Actually, I'm not comfortable with it. I think this is a tremendous improvement. I'm very happy with the lettering that says medical offices. I'm happy about your sign. That's fine. Can you go back to the other slide that includes the archway? So I'm happy about that. What troubles me is that the actual awning or canopy, whatever, is not more massive in measurement, in dimensions, but it doesn't follow the descending part of the stairwell. In other words, the awning stays the same size, which makes it massive, as opposed to going down in like sections of glass as you descend down the stairway. That's what's troubling me about this. I'm happy with the materials and everything else, but what's troubling me is the thing is just sort of stuck there. It's too big, and it's just sort of stuck, not representing that it's actually cover for a staircase. If it descended with the staircase, I would be much happier about it. So at any rate, not to take up any more time, those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle.
Alita?
Thanks, Saida. I have a couple of questions, and I also want to preface it by saying thank you for coming back and presenting repeatedly in order to get it right. That's really very much appreciated. So my questions are, how does plexiglass, I think you said the panels are made of plexiglass, how does that hold up in a horizontal position with the city's dirt resting on it, snow, ice? Does it change color? Does it crack? Is it a durable material? That's my first question. And my second question, it's not really a question as much as a statement. I'm not sure I really like the letters on the side of the canopy, and I have to agree with my previous colleagues, and I'm interested in what everyone else has to say. I think even though you've done a really good job of making the letters very basic and simple and using the same material, at least from the image, it still looks somewhat more obtrusive than it might otherwise be, but I'm not really sure how to fix it other than by putting it somehow on the door frame or the arch, I think, as you put it. Thank you.
Right. To furthermore, to go over the question you had, we are using this almost an inch thick frosted plexiglass. And the reason why we decided to use plexiglass is because of this durability. Throughout time, and also if needed repairs, it'll be an easy fix to install rather than using glass, especially the material of glass and having that installation being carefully uninstalled and installed. So this way, it's more manageable for our client to install either a new panel or if they want to change the shade of the plexiglass, they'll be easily be able to do that. So there are installed, let me try to zoom in on this detail here. So as they're bolted on, and the angle, the shelving that's holding the plexiglass are, sorry, I forgot the word. My apologies. In other words, they are together, and I'm not sure if you can see. Can you see the bracket there?
Yes.
Okay. So that is connected to the storefront on the other end. So that way they both get sandwiched in together. So as you can see at the top view here, this is the condition we will have as it starts curving towards the green area, which would be at the 25 side. So as it sandwiches in, we're creating that pressure within each other to maintain its form and its composures. Oh my God, sorry.
Alita, does that answer your question? I just think we've got to move along.
Yeah, go ahead, Jane. Thank you.
Thank you, Alita.
Sorry, I'm battling my computer over here at the same time.
Anthony?
There I am. Okay. A couple of things.
Sorry to interrupt. So, do you mind having the slides up? My computer failed on me one more time.
Okay.
My
Anthony,
apologies.
go ahead. Let's get going here.
Okay. No, that's all right. I don't need any slides. Thank you. Look, first of all, the entry portal there, which is completely inconsistent with everything, just to sort of as an aside, dates from a Mexican restaurant that was in the space in the 1980s. That's just a sort of piece of neighborhood information. I think this is so much improved. It's hard to be particularly critical. I think the plexiglass is okay. I think we're seeing the letters as much stronger than they would be since they're the exact same material as the canopy itself. I would have preferred that it stepped down just as a matter of honoring the fact that it's over a staircase and you get further and further away from your protection as you get closer and closer to the building. But I don't think that's fatal. I could actually support this, and I think that we're I think at this point we're being mean if we don't. And I really appreciate that you've come back to us so many times. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you.
Sorry, we have a raised hand from Michelle. Jane, do you want to keep going or?
Oh, I think we're going to keep going to Marco. Let's hear from everyone.
Okay.
You know, we have a very long second pre-application, so.
Thank you, Jane. I appreciate that. Well, I'm going to say that this is less intrusive and more in the context with the original design. I think it has a good improvement. Definitely, you run away with these awful colors that you have at the beginning. But let me talk about a little bit the stairs. I think it's time to, I recently faced a problem like that. Well, I saw clearly that you have 5 stairs down, probably approximately 35 inches, and then you have a landing, 35 inches and a landing. That's what I counted your stairs. So that means that if you reduce 35 inches, yes, you can create a platform. Probably effectively from the inside, it looks more in context and more, is more, I missed the word, it's more in context of the human scale. That is the right word. However, in the way that I'm seeing from outside, and landmarks, we make judgment, know what it is inside. Where we make the judgment is what we saw from the street level. And from the street level makes a lot of sense. Doesn't explain that there is a stair that go down, reducing the levels every time. And I think your approach is, I think, is very reasonable because the materials you use, I think, is adequate. Yes, it reduced the visibility. The other one was a monstrous visibility. And the signage, I think, is a little bit in context. You can use the materials either, as long as you have a polymers on the roof. I think you have a very durable material, very simple. Finally, I'm going to say that I'm going to be in disagreement, but I'm not going to make my judgment. You are not in compliance with the ADA. If you put anything in that part, is wrong. The rule is by the building code, you touch it, you must be in compliance. And now, according with the building code, you must provide a handicap accessible for any entrance, except for the service entrance. But I'm not gonna use that to make my decision, but I think your approach is reasonable. I think it's time to move forward, and I congratulate for the efforts and for the many times that you came to the community board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Christina. Oh, okay. Christina, confirm a meeting.
Mute. Thank you. No, I think everything has been discussed and it's much improved and I can support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Kimberly, confirm a meeting.
Hi, thank you, Saida. Thank you, Jane. I echo exactly what Christina just said. It's a marked improvement, so I can support this application.
We can go to David now.
At the risk of being mean, despite the fact that it's improved, I still have two concerns. Number one, the material may probably improve plexiglass a lot, but it does discolor over time, which glass does not. It does abrade, which glass does not. It does show the dirt more than glass, at least in my experience. So I'm not thrilled with the plexiglass. But more to the point, a number of people have touched on the fact that it doesn't step down with the stairs. The reality is that you have a canopy that doesn't do the job, because that is so open to wind-blown rain, which you're going to get all the time, that anybody who's under that canopy, when the canopy gets to be, I don't know, you said anywhere from 13 to 17 feet above the entry, those people aren't really going to be protected. So what you've done is you've given us a canopy that looks much more appropriate and much more contextual, but you've also given us a canopy that doesn't work. So my own feeling is that we are concerned about context and appropriateness, but also don't think it's appropriate if it doesn't work. So unless you can come up with something that steps within the context of what you're showing us, I can't support it.
Thank you, David. I think it's time for us to formulate a resolution on this. I really have to say that I'm totally torn because it's such an incredible improvement over the previous two designs that were shown to us, that harsh blue with the white lettering. Michelle.
Sorry, Jane, we also forgot Barry. Barry is here.
Oh, Barry's here. Sorry, Barry.
That's okay. I just want to add, I agree with David's assessment of the situation. The dissenting declines to address the issue. I not dissenting, it declines to address the issue. And I think it's a fatal flaw. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Sorry that I didn't see you. Hey, Michelle wants to make one more. I hope.
Yes, I do, if you don't mind. Yeah, the descending part of it, as I expressed, was my main concern. And also who would wash the awning, and also the materials. I would like it to be glass. But having said all that, I appreciate that the applicant has come back all these many times. I was hoping the third time would be the charm, but maybe not. But in order to, I don't know how the resolution is going to go, but in order not to have him come back again, I'm wondering if between now and the full board meeting, but I guess it's only a couple of days.
No, we can't do
come
that.
back and ask the applicant if they would be willing to do a step down and if they would be willing to do glass. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'm going to oppose it. And I was just like to look for a way not to have to bring these people back.
Well, Michelle, thank you. We were just going to vote on the design as presented. Who wants to formulate a resolution? My sense is it's kind of a split on the board. No one wants to formulate a resolution?
I see Marco's hand is raised.
Okay, Marco.
I would like to put a motion. The motion is to approve as presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. Okay. Is there a second?
Otherwise, there is no motion.
Is there a second?
I don't see any raised hands for a second, no.
Okay.
Oh, we have one from Anthony. Anthony
Oh, Anthony, is you're seconding?
nods yes.
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. So I think we can go to a vote, Saida.
One second, let me lower hands and share my screen. And I will be unmuting everyone.
Abstain.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. Michelle? Michelle?
No.
Alita?
No.
Anthony?
Yes.
Marco?
Yes.
Christina?
Yes.
And Kimberly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Don't forget Barry.
Barry, yes. Barry?
No.
Okay, 1 second while I tally the votes here.
You have no position in the board.
Well, we haven't gotten to me or David yet.
Oh, sorry. David?
No.
Jane?
No. So
Sorry, I was muted. 5 no's, 2 yeses, and 1 abstention.
thank you. The abstention counts as a no. Thank you so much, Saida. I didn't expect this application to take this long. So I'm turning it over to David. Thank you, everyone. And I just want to make a comment that the presentation was really one of the worst I've ever heard in my years of being on the Landmarks Committee, really. Thank you.
Okay, next applicant, 210 East 62nd Street. Who is here to present the application? If you can give us your name.
Taro, if you're here, could you raise your virtual hand?
Is there a hand raised? Oh, okay. Thank you.
I don't see one as yet.
AA plus D, but I don't know who Mr. D is. So if we could get his name, I would appreciate it.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Sorry, I'm not a Zoom expert, so I don't know how to raise my hand virtually. Anyways, yeah, my name is Keitaro Nei. I'm the architect for architecture design. And
Keitaro,
so,
how do I spell your name?
Keitaro, and last name is Nei, Nei.
Thank you. Okay. Is somebody going to do a screen share for you, or are you going to do it?
Can I share my screen? Am I set
Yes,
up?
you should have the capability to do that.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay, can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, I just want to thank the board for allowing us to make another presentation. You know, we have listened to many of the community's concerns, and we sort of went back to the drawing board, and we've come up with a new scheme which we're excited to present to you, because we feel it does address some of the issues that were previously raised. So let me just quickly go through the presentation. This is this first image just basically just shows the pre-construction condition, what we're proposing in the middle, and what the current conditions are, just to give an overall reference. Okay, next page. And this is the project location, and we're not too far from 3rd Avenue and 62nd Street, and the visibility of the roof addition will be mainly towards 3rd Avenue. So I'll show you the next slide here. So yeah, this is really, this zone is where the roof addition is most visible. And so we're focused on trying to reduce this visibility as much as possible. Okay, so this first roof plan is the pre-construction condition. There used to be an old elevator bulkhead. This was removed. This second plan is what was originally approved by the Landmarks Commission and the Community Board. And this third roof plan is the as-built conditions. And there were some issues in the construction, which I can get into a little bit more, that created deviations from what was approved. But what the owner would like to do now, and we feel this will be a vast improvement in terms of reducing visibility, is to really dismantle this current as-built roof addition and create a much more modest structure at the roof level. This being basically a stair and elevator bulkhead and a small powder room. And let me go to the next slide. This is basically the plan of the bulkhead structure. And what's really going to impact visibility is that we are now pushing this west face back about 11 feet from this property line on the west side. So that really impacts the visibility. Let's go to the next slide. So this shows basically the building sections pre-construction. This is what was approved. And next slide, again, the same approved section, and in comparison, what was as built. And you can see from here, there are some deviations from the approved and the as built. And I'm going to go to next slide. Again, the as built versus now what we are proposing to do. And this is a transverse section. And the next slide, this is basically a zoom in of this. So this gives you an idea of all the different versions to date. So the red dashed line is what was approved. The blue dashed line is what was built. And now what we are proposing to do, zoom in even further, is something that's basically set back 11 feet from the west property line, and basically a stair and elevator bulkhead and a small powder room. And the HVAC unit will remain as we had proposed before, but I think set back even more from the front. In fact, just to go back to the roof plan, we also are trying to set the front face of the bulkhead back more than what was approved or built. So we're trying to set back in basically we are setting back in these three directions. The other, I just want to point out that one reason for these deviations was that the floor levels were raised. So, for instance, the third floor was raised about 19 inches, and the upper floor here, the old roof level, was also raised. So this is sort of caused everything to be higher than it should have been. Again, I was not present when any of this construction happened, so we didn't know that this had occurred until we had to go back and do a thorough survey ourselves, and we figured out what actually happened. This is the sort of bird's eye view of the new roof addition, and this is looking from the street side, and you can see the stair, bulkhead, elevator, bulkhead, and powder room. And then this is from the rear, and you can see the same bulkhead here. This is the as-built condition of the roof addition. It's a photo montage, the entire west face for reference. One of the things that we are going to do, beyond just dismantling the roof addition, we are going to bring down the parapet, I believe about 18 to 24 inches down, and then have glass on top. So that would further try to reduce the massing. These are sort of older photos of the rear. This was pre-construction, and this is a little bit later. This actually, all of this rear facade has now been sealed up, so it's not open as shown in this photo. These yellow lines, I want to make sure this is sort of clearly pointed out. This yellow line is the as-built level of the what's to be now the roof terrace. And so because of the way the roof is sloped, it's higher in the back, but we are setting the whole face back 3 feet from the rear facade, so it doesn't go all the way to the rear. This is an elevation showing the pre-construction condition with the old elevator bulkhead, the approved roof addition, the as-built, which is being dismantled, and this would be the proposed roof conditions. And so we're going to have glass railings around. We will still have to raise any chimney flues 3 feet above the adjacent structure. So that hasn't changed. Let's see. This is the rear facades, again, pre-construction. The approved, the as-built conditions, and what we are now proposing. And just for extra clarity, we wanted to highlight in this drawing on this, sorry, let me zoom in here so we can see this a little better. So on the third floor, as I mentioned, the floor levels have been raised. So therefore, this is now the current floor level as built, which we're going to keep as it is. But due to that change in the floor level, these windows on this third floor will become a little bit shorter than what we previously approved. So I just wanted to point that out because that's actually behind the extension. So it's a little bit harder to see. These are the renderings of the rear. So pre-construction, the approved version, and now what we are proposing. These are some photos to give context of what's happening from various viewpoints. This is from 3rd Avenue. This is probably this is about 300 feet away from the building, I would say. And this is a little bit closer and then a little bit closer, but all from 3rd Avenue. I have some more photos that show a more zoomed in view, but I'll get to that. And this is further down 62nd Street on this view. This is across 3rd Avenue on 62nd. And this is a sort of zoom in of that. And these are all photos of the as-built conditions with the mock-up. And let me give you a detail of the mock-up. Okay, so this diagram shows how we did the mock-up. And the reason we did the mock-up this way is because if we were to build a mock-up of what we propose, it would actually be totally encapsulated inside the as-built roof addition. So what we did was we created a sort of reference datum where we have this orange netting that is at the level of what we're proposing the new bulkhead to be, and then a further structure in a green netting, just so we're able to see this datum point, which is the top of this new proposed bulkhead. And let me show you the next photo. So this is the mock-up that was built. So let me zoom in a little bit. So as you can see, this is the actual width of the proposed bulkhead, but the actual proposed bulkhead would be inside the roof addition. But we wanted to build this so we can see where the datum point is when we take our photographs. So let's get to the next. This is just another view. As I said, this railing will, or the solid parapet will be brought down on both sides and replaced with glass. Okay, so this is a view from down 62nd near 3rd Avenue. This first plate is what was originally presented to Landmarks. The second plate is the as-built condition, and with the mock-up, which I'll zoom in a minute and you can see where it is. And this is the actual rendering simulating what the new proposed bulkhead would be. So we feel this will be far less visible than even what was approved initially. Here's the zoom in, and really zoom in. This little piece of orange is kind of where that netting was. And so we took that to be the datum point in creating this simulated rendering. So the bulkhead is flat versus the adjacent roof being slanted. So that's why it's not parallel. And this slide shows probably this would be maybe the most exposed view of the roof addition. but again, this is 300 feet away, so it's quite a distance, but we do have a zoom in of the roof addition. And you can see it here at this point. You can see, oops, you can see the orange netting pretty clearly. So that's approximately where the datum point of the new proposed bulkhead would be. So this is a rendering of that proposed bulkhead. But again, this is from pretty far away. And this is still certainly less obtrusive than what was originally proposed. We do have a few other context photos just for your information. But yeah, that's what we wanted to present for today. That really we're trying to move. We want to move forward, as I know that the community also does, and we want to try to do this in proper, safe way. So yeah, that's our presentation.
Thank you for clarity on the original, the built, and the changes you're making. And we'll open it up to the public. I have been told that that there's at least one member of the public who wants to make a visual presentation.
Yes,
and I would like to get that out of the way first. And it's rare that we have that, but there are precedents for it. And we'll certainly give Mr. Ney the opportunity to comment on it, just as you will all be commenting on his project. I'm hoping not to have to get into an argument or a dialogue. Hopefully both of you are accurate. So who's going to do the visual presentation?
I'm going to do it. Just 1 second, but we have Benita.
Saida, you're going to run the slides, but who's going to do the commentary?
Benita Solomon, she's unmuted.
Okay.
Hi.
Okay, floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Benita Solomon. I live next door to 210 East 62nd Street with my husband, James Solomon, and our 2 teenagers. Thank you to the committee for the work you've been doing on this property over the years, 5 years to be specific. My husband and I feel that the assertions made by this applicant can benefit from additional clarification. And given the history of misrepresentations at this location, it helps if everyone is on the same page. You can go, thank you, Saida, you can go to the second page. So this is just a reminder of the property at 210 East 62nd and how it has basically looked for 5 years until last week, the end of last week, when the openings were boarded up because they received an emergency declaration order from the Department of Buildings. Next slide, Saida. This is also just a reminder photograph. This is the illegal rooftop addition, which has been that way since 2017, March of 2017. That is my husband standing next to it. He's 6'1". It gives you an idea of how massive it is. And just below it shows in green the as-built structure and the what was actually approved to have been built is in yellow. Next slide, Saida, thank you. So the first thing I want to point out about the plan view that was presented by 210 or by Arctangent, the roof that was approved in 2017, showing 570 square feet, is on your left. In the middle is what this presentation says is the as-built roof. And on the right is actually what has been built. And the reason to clarify this is that the entire roof has been built up, as was pointed out. So the square footage that we're talking about is actually 50% larger than the square footage they've given on their presentation.
Are you talking about the fact that the whole roof has been raised?
Yes. Which is now part of the rooftop addition. And you can go to the next slide, Saida. So on the left, 210 has presented 183 square feet as what is being built with this revised bulkhead. Again, what I'd like to point out through the middle, in the middle picture, is there's 684 square feet that have been built up and is not represented. That's nearly 500% larger than the 183 square feet they are claiming to be building now. Also on the far right, I don't want anyone to forget about the rear extension, which is also part of this permit. Because they have raised the floors illegally and without a permit, their terrace at the top of their rooftop extension will be higher by 19 inches. It is also an additional 317 square feet that is being built up. Okay, the next slide, Saida.
Calculate what that is.
And that additional square footage, by the way, makes what you are looking at in plan view actually 1,184 square feet, not 183. So this next slide shows the bird's eye view, which Arctangent pointed out. On the left is a picture of what the roof would have looked like if they had built the approved structure. On the right, it shows the roof and also the rear addition on the back. If you'll notice, the rooftop structure is not just the bulkhead, but this entire platform that it is sitting on top of. It is why it is such a massive structure now, and it's why it's going to continue to be a very large structure and very different from what was approved in 2017. You can go to the next slide, Saida. And this just points out the parts of the plan that are different from what was originally approved in 2017. The bottom platform gives over 3 feet of additional height, and the platform on the back of the rooftop extension, which you can see towards the back where the gardens are, adds over 1.5 feet of additional height. Next slide, please. The section view, Arctangent actually did point out, Mr. Knight did point out that this is kind of a confusing image. So I just wanted to break it down a little bit for everyone. As he pointed out, the blue line is the as-built, the black line shows what they're proposing, and the red line shows what was approved in 2017. If you'll go to the next slide, there's a color presentation of what this actually looks like. So you can see on the left what was approved, and that's the light gray that's in the very front of the bottom image. In the middle is what they're now proposing. And then behind that is the as-built. So you can see that the current proposed structure, when you look at it in profile, is actually much taller than what they were originally approved to build. And you can also see on the rear extension that that will also be much taller than what was originally approved. You can go to the next slide, Seda. As Mr. and I pointed out, the floor heights were raised illegally. They were not part of the original permit. And these floor heights are what make the difference in the height of both the entire roof and the rear extension. These, at a minimum, 210 should be compelled to lower the floors to the approved heights. But I also want to point out, even though he said this is the heights of the floors have already been raised, it's not a fait accompli. It just because he said it's that way, it doesn't have to remain that way. In addition, if you will look at the fourth floor, which says, or the third floor, I should say, which says it's now 34 feet 4 inches. That 34 feet 4 inches is where Mr. and I explained the shorter windows would be. And that is actually the access to the terrace, the 17 by almost 19-foot terrace. And I find it interesting that they're going to access that terrace via windows that are not even tall enough for someone who's 6 feet tall. Okay, next slide, please. This is an image from the rear garden of 208 East 62nd Street. They are immediately to the west of 210. And you can see on the left picture on the left side, there's a wall that belongs to the apartment building, which is not in the historic district. On the right side, there is 210, which has now been boarded up, thankfully, as of a few days ago. And then the construction as it was approved, which will completely box in 208, and the construction as it was approved with the addition of the extra elevation on top of the rooftop extension. The neighbor at 208 will be further boxed in. It further overwhelms the original house, blocking sunlight, and also the tree that is on the right side of that neighbor's garden will most likely die. Very large, beautiful tree, which is not in leaf yet. Next slide, please. This is the view looking from the garden of 208 towards 210, all the way down to 220 East 62nd Street. These show the typical extensions on the houses along this row. Our house happens to be the one immediately to the right of the boarded up 210. That is a 6 foot, the part that's showing is 2 6-foot extensions. There is a larger extension on the ground floor, not quite 12 feet. The house at the very end is 220 East 62nd Street, which was built before the landmarks designation of Treadwell Farm. The view on the right shows the view from 208 with the neighbor's rear extension. The rear extension is 16 feet 11 inches, almost 17 feet, and 18 feet wide, and I think around 36 feet tall. And then the last, is that my last slide? That's my last slide. I'm happy to answer any questions. I live immediately next door, and I've come to really understand what's been going on here.
So I'm going to rely on you, Saida, to take people in the order that they have raised their hands.
Okay. Laura, confirm unmuting.
Hi, can I be heard?
Yes.
All right. Hello, everyone. This is Laura Sakine and from Friends of the Upper East Side Historic District. Friends usually doesn't speak at community board meetings most of the time because this is our first time seeing presentations, but definitely not our first time seeing this one. And I would like to take this opportunity to ask the architect a question, and it's something that Vanita mentioned, and the cause of one of the causes of this overbuilt construction is the difference in floor height. And I would like to know why is the architect and the owner not considering lowering those floor heights to at least what was approved if they're already deconstructing the entirely as-built rooftop. There's clearly there's nothing inside that building that requires that floor height to be that height, and that why is this not being considered at all?
Yes, thank you for your question. Basically, I want to take a step back for a moment, because what we're trying to do is, we asked ourselves, what can we do that would be less visible, even than what was previously approved, and then what can we do? I know one of the concerns is that the job site is stuck the way it is, and it's been like this for a few years, and that is a valid concern for the community. And what we're proposing is something that would both reduce the overall visibility from any public thoroughfare, but also not to further extend the construction process, which would probably aggravate the community further. So we're trying to find a solution that would be beneficial to everyone, and this is by rebuilding all the floors. That's really going to extend the construction period significantly, and I'm wondering if that's really what we would all want. I mean, my goal, I think, is really trying to reduce visibility as much as we can, and this is why we came up with the solution that we did.
All right, I understand.
Saida, just 1 second. I just want to understand if Mrs. Solomon is submitting this officially to the committee, her presentation.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's go to the next.
Carter, confirm unmuting.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I will speak briefly. My name is Carter Potash. Until recently, I was the applicant's immediate neighbor to the west of 210 in 208. I now live a couple blocks away, but I still care about the neighborhood and more importantly about righting a wrong. After around 40 happy years there, I felt I had to move after listening to the new owner personally tell me what he intended to do to the Solomons when he moved in. I'm not going to repeat the obscene words he used to describe, in my opinion, how he intended to assault and or make life hell for them when he moved in, but this is not the normal applicant who comes before you. I'm shocked to hear today about his expectation that you would even consider approving a structure with floor heights in excess of what was approved, how can they expect you to approve something so consequential? The trade-off is a party terrace on the roof with a bathroom. It's insulting. Turning to the past approval of the grossly excessive rear yard extension, I'll try not to make you listen to a repeat of the history, but I do know that the architect today didn't even bother to show you today what this unheard of massive rear yard extension would look like. The Solomons did, but he didn't. I'll just simply remind you that your committee previously realized it had made a mistake and by resolution wished that LPC would correct it by fully revoking the permit issue. It appears to me the basis for this was the applicant's faulty, incomplete, and according to others, deceptive presentation originally. And in my opinion, excuse my intemperate words, a fraudulent application. I was at the original LPC hearing, and sadly, much weight was given to the recommendation of your committee and of the community board that the application be approved. We now need your help to right this wrong. The applicant's pattern of what I consider to be deceit has been displayed every step of the way from his original presentation to this committee to what was actually built, even to what is now applied for. I can't imagine you'll support the applicant's revised plan, but it's not just compliance that we seek at this point, it's revocation. What's most important here is that our neighborhood needs you to aggressively seek to persuade LPC to revoke the entire permit based on the pattern of what I consider receipt, as I mentioned. I know that LPC is reluctant to take such a harsh measure. In fact, originally, they didn't even want us to be able to speak at an upcoming hearing about this. So pushing LPC to do the right thing here and revoke is a task that cannot be done without your repeated and strongly worded assistance. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Next we have Duncan, but also David Alita has a question for Benita as well, just letting you know.
Well, why
Duncan?
don't we take Alita first?
Okay.
Thank you,
Alita.
David. Thank you, Saida. I had a question for Benita. I'm sorry about mispronouncing your name. The architect seems to suggest on the plans that it has not, or the owner has not encroached on your property and the adjacent property on the other side. And I would just like to know whether it, in fact, the work that's been done has encroached on your property and the other. And then my other question also is, based on what the architect said about the neighborhood's disinterest in having continued construction, would you rather have the floors lowered and have some more construction, or have it remain as is to avoid the noise and debris?
Sure. Thank you, Alita. Yes, then they have built on both our property on the roof and on the property of 208. In addition, they excavated and underpinned without permission, which, as I'm sure you understand, requires digging out underneath both properties and installing pins. This requires a permit. It's illegal to do without consent of the neighbor. So yes, they did overbuild and trespass. My husband was going to speak to some of these issues. I think we sort of got together as a community and decided the most succinct way to present everything. And I think he could speak to some of those very important issues. If he could go next, it might speed things up a little bit. And I know Julianne needs to speak, and also the neighbor at 208 should speak.
Well, typically, we take everybody in the order of their raising their hands, but we'll take your husband next, since you don't want to have conversations that are disjointed.
Thank you.
Alita, thank you for your question. I will just answer it. Can you just turn that down, Sweeney? Sorry, I'm just getting feedback. So I'll just quickly answer your question. We'd rather have it done right and lawfully and legally, and by which I mean the floor reduced to what was approved at a minimum. So the notion that it's a sort of fait accompli as presented by the architect, as if this is how it's got to be, and therefore that's the new reality, seems to be a way of framing it, and framing it as so that we can finish the job is a way of, I think, that serves the architect and his client as opposed to the community. So let me just thank you for all of you. And I think we and the community would be remiss if we didn't thank this committee. Your ongoing attention and advocacy on this issue for now 5 years has been extremely well appreciated by the community, and there are many members of this particular committee who have worked just countless hours and have shown up at a variety of things, and so we're extremely appreciative. And we also, as former neighbor Carter very eloquently said, we give this committee credit for acknowledging a mistake by that it said that it outright should have rejected this applicant's original unprecedented and non-contextual, non-appropriate design back in 2016. We're all familiar with the Pottery Barn adage, if you break it, you own it. And in my view, CPA has done yeoman's work owning this. Kudos to all of you. We remain hopeful that the Landmarks Commission will do the same and own its original error but in granting a C of A to 210 for this woefully inappropriate plan. And by now, this committee is extremely well versed in the history of 210 East 62nd Street. For over 5 years now and running, the owner of 210 East 62nd Street has abused this community. 210 has acted dangerously. 210 has acted illegally. And 210 has repeatedly lied about its actions and intentions, including to this community board. And you'll recall, this applicant came before this committee in September 2020 with plans stipulating the height of its as-built rooftop additions and floors. Then 8 months later, in May 2021, it came back before this committee with taller heights, even though 210 was under a stop work order. Simply put, it's impossible to take 210 at its word and, frankly, its renderings. So let's look at their actions. 210 currently has 40 open DOB violations, 71 open ECB violations, $661,050 in unpaid fines. Now, we can assume that 210 intends to negotiate away its fines, and the city will forgive the majority of them. Though, of course, the neighbors who've been the most directly impacted by these violations and this board will not forget. This committee knows that 210 illegally and dangerously excavated its cellar without authorization, approvals, and monitoring, with potentially catastrophic consequences to the adjacent late 1870s built brownstones where children reside on both sides. And that 210 underpinned the adjacent properties at 212 and 208 without notification or a licensing agreement or proper monitoring. Underpinning is a permanent encroachment. I assume by now you also know that 210 built its penthouse over both our and other neighbors' property lines, but also that 210 penetrated our party wall with its steel beam, causing damage to the firebox. All of this you know. What you may not know, DOB and HPT have issued an emergency declaration orders for dangerous and unsafe conditions at 210. 210 was compelled by the city to pump out in excess of 3 feet of water that accumulated in its cellar, which had presumably been there for years because 210 left its job site open to elements on the front, back, and roof. 210 was also compelled to board up its rear and to remove hazardous scaffolding that had remained in place since 2017. But before DOB, LPC, and HPD pat itself on the back for taking action, I should note that this community board called on the city and LPC and DOB in particular to investigate this site in both its September 2020 and May 2021 resolutions. But not until late March 2022 did it see fit to initiate a declaration, though the site has been maintained in this state for 5 years. The Landmarks Law was established to protect, enhance, and perpetuate landmark properties. For the past 5 years, the Landmarks Preservation Commission abrogated its duty to protect our buildings within this historic district. That is a stain on this agency. And as a former Community Board 2 member, I recognize the importance of a Community Board resolution, and this board's 2020 and 2021 resolutions have been of the utmost importance. We thank CB8 for not only recommending that the applicant's prior proposals be denied, but also calling on LPC to revoke 210's original 2017 certificate of appropriateness. We thought it might be helpful to suggest in writing salient points for a possible CB8 resolution on 210's latest proposal, and we've emailed a one-pager of points to the district manager to share with the committee members. But in plain speak, I'd like to directly address the central LPC matters at hand. 1, is 210's current proposal design appropriate? 2, should 210's original certificate of appropriateness be revoked? Regarding point 1, appropriateness, the current proposal is not appropriate. The proposed rooftop addition is 56 feet 7 inches tall, which is 1 foot 6 inches taller than what was originally permitted in the original 2017 COA, after the commission's approval was conditioned on the height being further reduced before the 2017 permit was issued. The proposed rear extension includes an added volume not permitted in the original COA, which is inconsistent with other rear extensions on East 62nd Street and within the historic district. The entire roof of the building is proposed to be raised almost 3 feet, which combined with the extension overwhelms the original house and is inconsistent with the roof line of the other homes along the east side of East 62nd Street in the historic district. Regarding point 2, revocation of this permit is warranted as it requires adherence to landmarks law and rules, which 210 has violated. 210 misrepresented floor heights on every level in their application for the 2017 COA. 210 omitted plans showing underpinning of adjacent buildings in their application for the 2017 COA. And due to their failure to comply with the 2017 COA and building code, 210 has allowed the building to fall into and remain in a state of disrepair for fully 5 years, to the detriment of the historic district and possible harm to those living here. In conclusion, I want to leave you with this thought. In the spring 2016, within a month of each other, 2 applicants came before this very committee with design proposals seeking a certificate of appropriateness. Both were brownstones within the Treadwell Farm Historic District. In fact, they were and are adjacent properties. One was our home at 212 East 62nd Street, and the other, you guessed it, was this applicant, 210 East 62nd Street. Our proposal at 212 called for no rooftop addition and a contextual wedding caked rear extension. 210 opted to go beyond in every respect. We built according to our approvals, and in 2018, we moved into 212 East 62nd Street with our children. 210 decided to do as it pleased, and here they and all of us now find ourselves. And now, this applicant wants this board and LPC to reward its conduct by agreeing to an amendment to its original COA. Really? Giving 210 an inch beyond its 2017 COA is inconceivable. LPC speaks of precedent, fearful that by revoking 210 COA, it will invite others to request the same. What about the precedent that LPC sets if there aren't consequences for so wantonly, illegally, and dangerously acting as 210 has done? The 1965 landmarks law was established with exactly these kinds of cases in mind, to protect historic landmarks and neighborhoods. Revocation of 210 COA is warranted by law, full stop. Thank you for your time, and above all, your concern and caring.
Mr. Solomon, thank you. Normally, we don't allow such lengthy discussions, but you had a lot to say. Some of it had not anything to do with context and appropriateness. We're all very well aware of a lot of what you said, but I allowed for the repeat. I would appreciate for anybody else who wants to speak to please stay with context and appropriateness and not get into illegalities. Next.
Judy Schneider, confirm unmuting.
Good evening. I agree wholeheartedly with Mr. Solomon and Mr. Potash. And as a resident of the neighborhood, I really hope this board votes to revoke what the Landmarks has approved in the past. I think actions speak louder. I think words speak louder than the actions of this man at 210. Obviously, he is not an honest individual, and I certainly hope that the full board takes the appropriate action. Thank you.
Next.
Duncan, confirm unmuting.
I'd like to defer to Julianne for for her talk, and then I'll jump in after that. Thank you.
Julianne, confirm unmuting.
Sure, great, thank you. As president of Treadwell Farm Historic District Association, and on behalf of more than the 80 households that we represent, we want to thank the community board for your continued support and guidance on managing this very hazardous and out of context project at 210 East 62nd Street. It's been more than 5 years, as you've heard, that our historic district has endured significant hardships, and we strongly believe the facts in this case warrant a revocation of the 2017 Certificate of Appropriateness. There's not a day that goes by that I am not asked about this property. Since work began, the owner has demonstrated a flagrant disregard for LPC, for DOB, for neighborhood preservation, and for our residents' safety. I don't understand why the applicant would ever come forward and ask for more, as they have here again today, than we have seen in the past. The applicant absolutely should be held accountable and should not be allowed to proceed with all the violations that have been set forth here today remedied, and that all the fines that are out there should be paid. We've heard that there are 5 stop work orders, 71 open violations, more than $660,000 in unpaid fines. These still stand out there and have been accumulating since 2017. And I really don't think that we should even consider anything further until these are remedied. We've heard about the reckless conduct. We've heard about the excessive overreaching on both property lines as well as underpinning. What we maybe didn't hear much about was the water damage, the 3 feet of water that was mentioned, as well as mosquitoes that are breeding in that area. Our rear gardens, which are one of our major features, we can't even use our gardens. They're uninhabitable now because of mosquitoes. There's also rodents and birds that have been seen going in and out of this property over the years. The sidewalk has never been maintained. No debris has been picked up. No snow removal, as we all normally do as part of protocol for owning a single family home. I want to thank you for all your time and your efforts devoted to reviewing this owner's plans today and recognize these efforts. We know and I agree that the front building facade as planned and as shown today is now congruent with the details of the other 76 homes in the district. But the intrusive and inappropriate rear yard addition and rear cornice height as built with all the extended floors cannot be ignored. With this additional height, the rear extension will nearly be 150% larger than any extension in the district. Since 1967 landmark designation, LPC has never approved a rear yard extension of this magnitude and scale. And this sets an unwanted precedent and obscures uniformity of our district and will overwhelm the consistent height, roof lines, cornice detail, rear yards, and it completely undermines the beauty of our rear garden and our donut. We love our neighborhood. We take pride in our homes and this historic district and its greenery. As you may know, the Neighborhood Association was formed more than 100 years ago to preserve and protect the residential character and architectural integrity of the landmark district. We were the first district on the Upper East Side and the 8th district in New York City to receive landmark designation. The designation report states, the charm of this neighborhood consists primarily of its quality of uniformity and in its architectural excellence of the homes as they relate to each other and to the area as a whole. That is a quote from the designation report. And it's a neighborhood of tree-lined streets, well-maintained individual houses, and has an atmosphere of greenery due to plantings and flower boxes of individual owners, as well as a rear garden donut that spans the block with 17 homes in a row. Treadwell Farm supports Community Board 8's 2021 resolution calling upon LPC to revoke the original COFA. We hope you again will go forward strongly to ask for this revocation. The fact that this owner, after 5 years of disturbing actions, is even in a position today and bold enough today to even ask for more, I find infuriating. And it's absolutely unworthy to ever expect that we should give them any special treatment. I think there's a real problem here that we've sort of all highlighted that as a community board, I'm sure you come across. Should we be allowing for somebody to do something and then ask for permission later, especially with all the hazards that come before us? I don't think this is a precedent that the Community Board 8 or LPC would ever want. Build as you want and ask for permission later. That is what this applicant is asking for, and we should absolutely not allow it. Thank you so much for all your time and all your, efforts over these 5 years. It's actually 6 years that you guys first saw this on March 14th, 2016, and we're still talking about it, and we're still in this position with this hazardous condition. So I do hope that you will go as hard and fast with the issues at hand and ask for that revocation. I think this one is a case in which it's warranted. Thank you again.
Duncan, confirm unmuting.
Yeah. Hi, so my name's Duncan Sheik. I'm the new owner at 208 East 62nd Street. We acquired the townhouse from Carter, and I really appreciate how eloquently he spoke, and certainly Vanita and Jim and Julianne. They said, way more than I could ever do. I want to respect Mr. Halpern's request to just speak to context. Our townhouse, more than anybody else on the block, is going to be completely blocked in by this because we're already blocked in by the big structure to our west. And I'm sort of shocked that this was ever allowed to go through in the beginning, but it's a mishegas that I inherited, so I just have to deal with that. But I do think it's shocking that the architect, the contractor, the owners have never reached out to us to talk about any of these issues ever. It's incredibly unneighborly, and maybe I could have sent them a pigeon courier message because there's a lot of pigeons next door. But it's incredibly frustrating for myself as a new owner in the neighborhood to have to inherit this. Thanks.
Thank you. Any more hands raised?
That's it, David.
That's it. Okay, thank you to the public. And we will now go to the committee. And let's take it in reverse order, please. So we'll start with Marco.
Marco, confirm unmuting.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Saida. Can I ask a question to the applicant? Is the rear yard was approved or when you obtained the approval from the LPC? Can you answer the question, please?
Yes, the rear yard extension you're asking about?
Yes.
Yes, it was approved, and we have not changed generally the rear yard extension massing. That basically the top of the parapet that we are now proposing is at the exact same height it was approved before. Yes, the floor level behind the parapet has raised, but the actual parapet height remains the same. We for that rear yard extension, we're proposing a glass safety railing set back 2 feet from the parapet. But also that roof is not meant to be like an occupiable terrace. It's just a roof. So.
Okay, I agree with the neighbors saying that to do the deviation from landmark is wrong. Definitely, you shouldn't do that. You cannot build more than you already was granted. Another point that I would like to raise is usually the inside of the buildings, we never take position on that. Whatever they do, and is not our purview. In reality, landmarks, when we file any applications in landmark, if this is interior renovation, landmark doesn't intervene in that part. Yes, I absolutely agree. We need to preserve the donut of the neighborhood. Definitely, I really love that part. But we have a problem. We already approved before. I don't know. It's probably more likely I was probably one of the person that I was in opposition because I really love the donut. The only thing I'm going to say finally is our traditional way that we make our opinion is basically what is visible and what is not visible. And that I'm going to finish right there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anthony?
Thank you. This is still totally inappropriate. I was not on this committee, nor was I on the community board when this before it's the first time, and there's no point in rehashing that. And I apologize, David, because this does not speak to appropriateness, but I can't help myself.
We'll give you that liberty, Anthony.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You, as the responsible professional, created this situation, and now you ask us to help you out of it. In other words, you made this mess and you ask us to fix it for you and continue to create something that wasn't even approved the first time. As an architect, I am aghast and appalled, and I could never vote to approve this project. This is just wrong, and it's your fault. That's it.
Thank you.
Wow. Lita, confirm unmuting.
Thank you. Well, I have to say, even though I'm not an architect, I completely agree with Anthony. This project, and I'd have to say, sir, Mr. Ney, that the attitude expressed in the presentation was deliberately distracting everything in the passive tense as though it wasn't created by you or by your client. Duncan said that it was his mishigas. He inherited it and would have to live with it or deal with it. And that is certainly not the attitude that either you or your client have taken with respect to this. It almost sounded from the presentation as though it was some stranger's fault that somehow the floors got raised, the as-built condition, which doesn't even sound like it's correct, was created and needs fixing. There is nothing about this that's right. And even though we don't normally look at legalities, I have to say that this so smacks the residents, your neighbors, the other residents who share the donut, the city in the face by the deliberate disobedience, flagrant disregard for the appropriateness, the certificate that you'd already gotten, that there is nothing that I could approve here ever on this, given that you come here before this committee and it doesn't even sound as though those fines have been paid yet. It is a continual slap in the face. So I will stop here. I will say that I can only support a resolution that calls for the Landmarks Preservation Commission to revoke its previous certificate of appropriateness. And I'd ask for another resolution, although David will probably think it's not appropriate, to have the floors and everything else put back in its place. If I had my druthers, I would say that what should be granted is the ability to move in and restore it to the way it was when it was purchased, period. Thank you.
Thanks, Alita. Michelle, confirm unmuting.
Yes, thank you. So I think we all agree that there are a lot of bad actors here, and this has been an absolutely devastating situation for the neighbors, for the community, even for the Landmarks Preservation Commission, and even for this community board. So I join my colleagues in saying that I do not approve what has been presented. I had 1,000 questions about it, but the overriding issue sort of overrides the questions that you might have about the presentation, because it all in all is wrong, and so you can't tear it apart. However, my question is this, and I really want an honest answer, or if I can get an answer, David. I don't know if you and Jane are going to allow it, but
Let's hear the question.
it sure adds to the question. If we do a resolution that the permit is revoked, and if we do a resolution to put this back to how it was, if we do those resolutions, how is this going to get resolved? In other words, you've been living for 5 years now with this property in this kind of disrepair, with all of the problems that that brings to you. If you revoke permits, how fast and what can you demand in its place, and how quickly to allow remediation? It just sounds that, I mean, I'm not saying approving this is the other alternative. I am just genuinely asking the community, because clearly you have the research, you must have consulted legal, you must have had you have this information. Let's say tomorrow you find out that the permit is revoked. Now what? You still have a bad actor. You now have no plans for remediation. And I'm very interested in knowing what the plan is going forward, because that part does lend itself to appropriateness, and perhaps we could address it. But I would really, if anybody in the community has a good answer for that, I would like to hear it, because I'm just concerned it's going to leave you in limbo. Not that that's an urging to approve. I'm just saying, what's next? I don't know if you saw it. Well,
have you asked the question?
I've asked the question.
You're asking it of the community?
Yes, and Vanita has her hand up.
I'll accept one answer from one member of the community, and I think it's already been answered. Go ahead, Vanita.
Sure. If it's revoked, then the owner will be compelled to come forward with an appropriate presentation and try to get a new permit with something that is appropriate, period. And they won't be able to come forward until they've paid the fines for what they've done.
So the fines are a very big issue, should be paid. And how about all the violations and whatever? In that situation, that would all have to be righted before they proceeded with anything and a new presentation. Okay, asked and answered. Thank you very much. And by the way, let me just say this, the community's presentation was really excellent. I really appreciate it. And the applicant's presentation was certainly explanatory. We have a lot of disagreement with the facts, but it was an explanatory presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth, confirm unmuting.
Yes, this is a certificate of appropriateness, and I think fortunately makes it easy for us to decide, even if the applicant were Mother Teresa, we would decide that this is an inappropriate application. I certainly feel that it is. And I think that the applicant who had a permit to do certain work and built something else entirely, he has proven that he doesn't want what he asked for the first time. And so we should help him out and require him to restore what was originally there. That will make him, he's demonstrated that that is what he wants. So let's give him that and make a resolution to require, to revoke all the permits and require the applicant to do what he wants to do, namely to rebuild it the way it was before when any of this nonsense started. Thank you.
Thank you. Barry, confirm unmuting.
You calling on me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I hadn't raised my hand, but you must have sensed it from extrasensory perception. In any event, I'm devastated by the arrogance of the applicant. $600,000 in fines unpaid, all kinds of violations not addressed, rodents, mosquitoes, and he's coming before the community board to ask for approval of a application. That's insane. Excuse me. I thoroughly oppose the application he put before us, and I support the idea of asking the LPC to revoke the 2017 action. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kimberly, confirm unmuting.
Thank you, Saida. Thank you, David. I'm not going to belabor the point because the points have been better said by other people. I completely agree with disapproving this application. And I would just say that I am just profoundly sad at the fact that this landmark building has been allowed to fall into such a state of disrepair. And whatever this board, this committee can do to keep that building, whatever we can encourage the applicant to do to structurally maintain what, you know, as I think Elizabeth was saying, to put it back to the original state. I think I agree that that's the best course of action.
Thank you. Christina, confirm unmuting.
Yes, well, several agencies have failed this application. And I'm in support with what the committee has said. Thank you.
Thank you.
May
Sorry,
I
David?
put it?
Mr. Nay, you would like to comment? It's up
Yeah.
to Jane and I are left, right?
Yes, correct.
So if there's nobody else in the committee or,
Marco has his hand raised also again.
all right, well, then since everybody in the committee has spoken once, we'll go to Mr. Nay and then we can come back to the committee.
Okay.
But I'm not going
Yes.
to I'm not going to bounce back and forth with the public. We're giving him, as the architect of record here, an opportunity to speak again.
Yeah, hi. So, yeah, basically, I just want to convey to everyone that, you know, we're trying to come up with a solution that is in fact less visible than what was previously proposed, and which we feel from the public thoroughfare it is. You know, I could go into point by point some of the issues that were raised and have a counterpoint to some of these things, but you know, I don't know if that's going to be a productive use of time. I think, you know, I mean, certainly we're not trying to mislead anyone. I tried to be as forthcoming in this latest proposal as much as I possibly could. I tried to point out all of the deviations that were there and try to explain as clearly as I could how we arrived at this solution. So I cannot speak to violations and fines and all of that because that's not something I am privy to. But I am trying to honestly find some kind of solution that tries to address the concerns that the community has. And I know that at the end of the day, there are still concerns, and that the committee will vote whatever way they feel. But I'm trying to do this in a the most forthcoming way I can. I'm not trying to hide anything or anything like that. So I just wanted to convey that I hope we can work together.
Well, we thank you for your presentation. We thank you for the fact that it was factual, and your presentation and that of the communities showed pretty much the same issues. So it's just a question of how we view them. So as a committee, we will make up our minds. Next is Jane, I think.
Thank you, David. David, I think it's time to formulate a resolution.
Well, not until I've had a few words.
No, of course, you may have a few words, but I will support the committee on this. I think, we can't just belabor it forever. We just have to bite the bullet and tell Landmarks how we feel. Thank you.
David, did you still want to go to Marco?
Oh, yes, if he has something he'd like to say, yes.
Thank you, David, for the opportunity. This is not about the project itself. This is about the parliament procedure. First of all, the chair is not our boss. The chair no makes the final decision, Anthony. Is the majority of the community board. So the members has been, they speak out and they vote, regardless if we approve or disapprove. So I find it a little bit offensive from the point of view of the professionals. And that you shouldn't say that, because one person cannot determine what is the decision of the majority. This is a democratic decision. And thank you so much, David.
I'm sort of confused by Marco's comment, but anyway, David, I'd love to hear from you.
Okay, well, I was a little confused because I'm not sure whom you're referring to, but the majority of what the committee does is what we write in our resolutions. So I think that's pretty straightforward. I don't have a lot to say because I think a lot has been said. But with respect to the interiors, my experience with Landmarks, and I'm not sure what's written or not written, is that if there is an issue on the interior that affects the exterior, then it is a legitimate issue for us as a committee. And it is absolutely clear that the change in floor heights affects the exterior in a very significant way. The shortening of the windows and maybe is changing the proportions of the building on the exterior. Absolutely wrong, in my opinion. The use of glass railings that are modern is absolutely wrong. In other words, you don't do something wrong to hide something wrong. Glass is not transparent. Glass actually is reflective. Depends upon how the sun is hitting it, how much daylight, so on down the line. And it's certainly not appropriate to put a modern glass railing on top of a building like this. I think that covers the few little items that I wanted to speak to, with the exception that as an architect and as a member of this committee for over 10 years, I think we've always taken the point of view that we want to see what's right for the long term. And I think that Mrs. Solomon said that on behalf of the community, and certainly my own personal position is you do what's right for the long term. So with that, I'm certainly open to hearing a resolution.
We have a raised hand from Alita. Alita, confirm unmuting.
Thank you. I'd like to make a resolution or propose a resolution that we ask the Landmarks Preservation Commission to revoke all certificates of appropriateness with respect to this project. And I don't know if this is the right time, a separate resolution asking that all of the interiors and any changes be restored to the way they originally were before they were built out of line.
Alita, it's going to be one resolution, please.
Okay, then include both, please.
Yeah, so it's all interrelated. I thought I just explained that.
You did very articulately. Thank you, David. I was stuck in my head. So yes, one resolution asking for revocation of the certificate of appropriateness and that the floor heights and any other changes like that that were beyond what was granted be restored.
I see a second from Marco.
And we have a raised hand from Michelle.
Yes, Michelle.
Thanks. I meant it as a second. I just wanted to, Alita changed a couple of words when she repeated herself. So I just want to make sure that it's to do the revocation and that the restoration is to the original condition. Was that what you meant, Alita?
Yes, yes. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, I second that.
The original condition in terms of the floor heights and certain other aspects of the building.
Yes, the rear and everything that's in the presentation.
We're all saying the same thing.
Correct.
It's what condition means. Okay, it's not going to be the physical condition. It's going to be a new physical condition that will in fact replicate the original condition.
David, may I jump in here, please? I think we should act to deny the application before us and then address the other issues. We can't ignore the application before us.
Oh, no, I know how to write it. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I will go ahead and unmute everyone in preparation for the vote.
So we're voting, right, please?
Yes. And in reverse order, I suppose.
So a yes is a no on this one.
Okay. Marco? Marco?
Yes.
The resolution is as Barry stated, the resolution is to deny the application plus everything else that I know the committee would like to see in the resolution.
Anthony?
Yes.
Alita?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Elizabeth?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Kimberly?
Yes.
Christina?
Yes.
And Jane?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
1 second. Count votes.
Okay, thanks to everybody and thanks to Mr. Nay for coming back. And
Sorry, David, that's 10 in favor.
Excuse me?
10 in favor.
Thank you. And I think that does it for our meeting, unless there is something absolutely critical. It's already been a fairly long meeting. Michelle?
Thank you. Everybody on the committee got that letter from CB5. We had talked about it before, the fact that they're making commentary. They have a resolution and they've made commentary on the whole Penn Station development, and they're concerned with the 8 or 9, I have the letter in front of me, however many, what they think should be landmarks in that district, to urge the Landmarks Preservation Commission to start to study those in an aim to protect them if and when that whole project goes forward, which I believe calls for pretty much the demolition of about 9 square blocks in the area. I think we should certainly discuss, I think we're pretty familiar with the project, but we should certainly discuss if we want to comment on it on our own, or if we want to redigest and support the CB5 position. But I think it is such, it's not in our district, but it is such a grand project that affects the whole city of New York, its history, and will create a precedent for what happens to buildings who could or should become landmarks when such a mass project is proposed. So I would ask the committee, I think we should do something about it, but I'd ask the chairs, the co-chairs and the committee how they think we should proceed.
And Jane, unless you feel otherwise, I'd like to postpone it for a month.
I sort of feel that way too. I was appreciative that Alita got the ball rolling on this, brought it to our attention at last month's Landmarks Committee meeting. There's a lot to digest in the mailing that you all received, the supporting materials that Community Board 5 added to its resolution are, I didn't even have a chance. I mean, I just glanced at them and I wanted that Alita's letter to Russell, or the Community Board 5 letter to Russell, to get circulated with everyone. But I'm kind of with Barry that, I mean, with, excuse me, Barry, David, that let's postpone it for a month and give everybody a chance to really look at it.
That's fine. Can you actually put it on the new business agenda?
For next month?
Yes.
I'm happy to. It's very, very complicated, but I think the passion is there among certain members of the committee to take a stand. And I just want to support David in reviewing it next month. We'll put it on the agenda under new business.
That's fine.
Is that okay with you, Alita?
Alita's shaking her head, yes.
Yes, I was muted. Yes, it is. Thank you. I understand.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you for getting us all to even look at it, Alita. So, and thank you, Michelle, for mentioning it tonight.
I have to give credit to Michelle. I think she raised it the last time, but but we were both at the same, I think, HDC meeting, and it's important. So I appreciate the committee's willingness, and of course, David and Jane's, to discuss it.
Okay. We have a couple of hands up. Marcos came up first, and then Elizabeth.
And thank you. I don't know if Elizabeth want to say something, but I would like to put a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, did you have anything that you wanted to say other than adjourn?
Second, I was going to make the same motion.
Oh, okay.
I appreciate the unanimity. Okay. We'll see you all Wednesday night.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Good evening.
Bye.
Saida? Saida, are you still there?
No, she's not, but I am. What do you need? David? Okay.